Hello everyone, welcome to day number 3 where we are discussing the most probable topics for UPSC Prelims 2020. This is a part of Prelims warm-up brought to you by Aptiplus Academy for Civil Services, and I am Shayak Datta. I'm a faculty at Aptiplus Academy for Civil Services. So without further ado, let us start with our first question for the day. In the first question, we are going to discuss about Composite Water Management Index 2.0. Composite Water Management Index 2.0. So from the term itself, you can understand 2.0 means that there was an earlier version also. This is the second version. So let us see what the question says. Consider the following statements with regards to Composite Water Management Index 2.0, which is from now on we'll refer to it as CWMI 2.0. and select the correct options. So under this you have been provided 5 statements, and let us consider the statements. The first statement is this Composite Water Management Index 2.0. It is an initiative under Niti Aayog in collaboration with the Ministry of Jal Shakti and the Ministry of Rural Development. So the first statement is saying that this particular index, especially a report, see, when we talk about an index, what does an index do? An index is supposed to be calculated on the basis of certain parameters. On the basis of those parameters, a particular score will be given. And on the basis of that score, either countries or states will be given certain ranks. Say for example, if we are talking about the HDI or Human Development Index, what does it do? So under HDI, we have 3 parameters. And on the basis of those parameters, a score is decided. So a score is given to every country, and on the basis of the score, the countries are given a rank in the HDI index, or as per the HDI index. So basically, whenever there's this entire concept of index, ultimate thing is what? A ranking will be provided. In this case, a ranking will be provided to various states of India and union territories of India. So it is not on an international basis, this is happening within India. Okay? So the first statement is saying that this index, it has been brought to you, or it is an initiative by Niti Aayog in collaboration with 2 other ministries. One is the Ministry of Jal Shakti and the other is the Ministry of Rural Development. The second statement is saying that the base year considered in CWMI 2.0 is 2017 to 18. Base year means the year against which the improvement will be measured. Okay? When we are talking about composite water management, means what? Okay, how well a particular state or a union territory has been able to manage its water resources, which means they have ensured that there is no wastage of water taking place. Water is managed in the most efficient manner possible. So there has to be some baseline, right? There has to be some baseline against which you will be able to understand whether a state has improved or its performance has gone down. So in this case, the base year, it has been taken as 2017-18. That is what the statement is saying. The third statement says that Andhra Pradesh has come out at the top. So rank 1 is Andhra Pradesh, rank 2 is Gujarat, and third is Madhya Pradesh. The fourth statement is saying in CWMI 2.0, amongst the union territories, Delhi is rank 1 and Puducherry is at rank 2. And the last statement, it is saying that on an average, it has been seen that it has been observed that on an average, the scores of the majority of the states which have been assessed in this particular index, their scores have declined, which means the states they are not performing well so far as water management is concerned, and their scores have declined. That means their performance has gone down. So these are the 5 statements provided with regards to Composite Water Management Index 2.0. Let us see the options given. So as you can see, option A is saying 2, 3, 4 and 5. Option B is saying all of the above. Option C 1 and 3, and option D 1 only. Now first thing is, this topic is very important. Very high probability of this particular topic being asked. That is one thing that you should know. Again, since it is an index, definitely you should know who has come up with this particular index. So if we look at the various statements which have been given, The first statement is actually correct. It is an initiative of Niti Aayog in collaboration with the various states and union territories and the union ministries. One is the Ministry of Jal Shakti and the other is the Ministry of Rural Development. That is correct. When we talk about the second statement, that is incorrect because this assessment has been done for 2017-18, but the base year which has been taken is the previous year. That is, we have talked about 2016-17, which has been taken as the base year as per CWMI 2.0. So basically, the second statement is incorrect. So let's say if you omit the second statement, automatically, if you cancel out those options which are having the second statement, then automatically you are left with only two options, right? Okay. So second statement is gone. Now coming to the third statement, Andhra Pradesh has come out at the top, followed by Gujarat and MP at third position. Well, that is actually incorrect because Gujarat has not only come out at the top as per CWMI 2.0, but also as per the previous index, that is CWMI 1.0, the first index, first composite water management index, there also Gujarat had come out at the top. So Gujarat has been able to retain its top rank. Gujarat is followed by Andhra Pradesh and then comes Madhya Pradesh. So the third statement is also incorrect and you can strike this off. Then you are left with D, and D is that is one only is the correct option. But at the same time, let us also consider the other statements as well. And this is how you should analyze your MCQ. It's not sufficient just to know what is the correct answer. But at the same time, you should also know why the other answers are incorrect, why the other options are incorrect. So if you look at fourth statement, in CWMI 2.0, amongst the union territories, Delhi is at the top, followed by Puducherry. Now that is incorrect because, before that, just know one thing. Okay, in the earlier version of CWMI, that is the first version of the Composite Water Management Index, no data had come from the union territories. So this is the first time when some data we are getting from the union territories. And that too, only two union territories. One is Delhi, the other is Puducherry. So first thing that you should remember is, for the first time, data from the union territories have come. And what else? Amongst these union territories, that is Delhi and Puducherry, we get to see Puducherry has come out at the top, followed by Delhi. So first rank is to Puducherry, second rank is to Delhi. So fourth statement is also incorrect. The fifth statement says that on an average, the scores of the majority of the states have declined, and that is also incorrect because in reality, it has been seen that on an average, 80% of all the states, their scores have actually improved compared to the previous score. So all the states, at least 80% of the states, they have actually shown improvement. So only the first statement is correct, the other statements are incorrect. So your right answer is D, 1 only. Okay, so this is the correct answer. So all these things I have mentioned over here. First statement is correct, the base year is this. These are the bodies which are involved in this index. Okay, base year is 2016-17, reference year, this year is the year for which this index it has been published, that is 2017-18. This is the ranking. You don't have to remember every single state, but at least remember the top 3 or the top 5. That will be more than sufficient for prelims. Okay? So Gujarat, Andhra Pradesh, Madhya Pradesh, Goa, Karnataka. Top 5 is more than sufficient. Gujarat, Andhra Pradesh, Madhya Pradesh, Goa and Karnataka. So these are the top 5. Puducherry, it has come out at the top, then follows Delhi, and 80% of the states, they have improved their scores. So this is with regards to the Composite Water Management Index 2.0. Moving on to our second question. We get to see that there was locust attack, and hence locust again becomes important for UPSC Prelims 2020. So the question is with regards to locust. What is locust? Locust is a type of insect. Okay? So देखते हैं what are the various statements given. First statement, locust can cause various types of diseases in human beings. So it is an insect and it is capable of causing different types of insects in different types of diseases in human beings. That is the first statement. Second statement, 4 species of locusts are found in India. Third statement is Tamil Nadu and Karnataka are the most vulnerable states to locust invasion. And fourth statement is the Locust Warning Organization, which comes under the Directorate of Plant Protection, Quarantine and Storage, which comes under the Ministry of Agriculture and Farmers Welfare. That body, that is Locust Warning Organization, is responsible for monitoring, survey and control of locust population. So these are the four statements which have been provided and you have to select the correct option. Let's see. First statement is, the first option is saying 1 and 4. 1 and 4 means locust can cause various types of diseases and 4 is talking about the Locust Warning Organization. Achha, B is talking only about Locust Warning Organization. C is saying that there are 4 species of locusts and it is talking about the Locust Warning Organization. And D is saying all the 4 statements given, they are true with regards to locust. Now first thing that you have to understand are what are locusts. Locusts are nothing but grasshoppers. Okay? So initially they are called as hoppers when they are very small. Now these what happens is these hoppers, now they will lay their eggs in desertic areas, semi-arid areas, and these eggs will not hatch till there is rainfall. And as you are aware, in desertic areas rainfall is very infrequent. It is not frequent, it is very scarce. And as a result of which, so whenever there is some amount of rainfall which will take place, we will get to see that these eggs which can be stored under the sand for over 20 years, these eggs will start to hatch. And you will find lakhs and lakhs of these grasshoppers, they will come up. They will all come up, but initially they are not able to fly. So initially they will all arise. For example, in Sudan, Eritrea, which comes under the eastern part of Africa, which is also called as the Horn of Africa. So there this locust invasion actually started. So very frequently we get to see Africa will be the source and we will get to see all these locusts, they will all hatch, but initially they will not be able to fly. Initially they will hop, but when they are hopping they will eat up all the vegetation which lies on their path. Dhire dhire, as they keep on growing up, slowly as they keep on growing up, they will develop wings and they will be able to fly. In fact, they will be using the direction of the wind. So their motion will be in the path or in the direction of wind movement. And we get to see that the wind will slowly carry them from Africa on to Saudi Arabia, and then they will slowly move into Pakistan, and finally they will affect the northwestern part of India. So the states which are on the northwestern side, they are the ones which will get affected. That is, take for example Rajasthan, which is very vulnerable or very prone to locust attacks. You will have Gujarat, Punjab, Haryana to some extent. So these are the areas where the highest amount of attacks from locust invasion takes place. Okay? So let us consider one by one. First is locust can cause various types of diseases in human beings. No, locust cannot do that. They do not attack human beings, number one, not though there can be diseases from them. But yes, they can cause a huge amount of damage to the crops, and ultimately that will result in a lot of financial loss for the farmers. So that is how they affect the farmers. They are a farmer's nightmare, you can say, but otherwise they won't cause diseases as such. Like let's say for example zoonotic diseases, for example bats, which can transfer diseases. So it won't happen like that. But so the first statement which has been given, that is incorrect. Second statement which has been given, that is correct. There are 4 species of locusts which are found in India, and we will see which are the 4 species. The third statement, Tamil Nadu and Karnataka are the most vulnerable states to locust invasion. Now you can understand, just as I told you, okay, most of the northwestern states are the most vulnerable ones, not the southern states or the eastern states. So these locusts, they require dry climate. Okay. So what happens is Rajasthan, Gujarat, Punjab, Haryana, you can call these states to be the most vulnerable, but not Tamil Nadu and Karnataka. Fourth statement is actually correct. This is present in Jodhpur. So the statement 2 and statement 4 are correct. So out of the given options, we get to see the right answer is C, 2 and 4. Let us see the answer. Yeah, C. So locusts, they don't cause diseases. We have already understood that, but they will destroy vegetation, and as a result of which they are a farmer's nightmare. The 4 species of locusts which are found in India are the desert locust, migratory locust, Bombay locust, and you will also have the tree locust. So desert locust, migratory locust, Bombay locust, and tree locust. I do not think that UPSC will be asking you about their scientific names. It's not possible for everyone to remember so many scientific names. Just remember the common names: desert, migratory, Bombay, and you have the tree locust. And we get to see the northwestern states of India are the most vulnerable. For example, Gujarat, Rajasthan, Haryana, Punjab are these states. Okay, so this is with regards to locust. Moving on to the third question. This is regarding a particular initiative called as the Deep Ocean Mission. So the question is asking, okay, what is the main objective of this Deep Ocean Mission? So first thing is, okay, if you have not studied this, if you have not studied about this topic, I would again recommend, okay, you can skip this question. Why? Because look at the options which I have given over here. Option A is saying it is an espionage mission of the Indian Navy on its enemies. So if you have no idea whatsoever, if you have never come across this particular initiative called as the Deep Ocean Mission, it is very probable, it is very likely that you will think that option A is correct, because it looks like that, no? Deep Ocean Mission might be an espionage. What is espionage? Espionage means spying on enemies. So it might appear to you as if it might be an espionage mission of the Indian Navy on its enemies. So that is option A. Option B is it will help to develop a genetically modified whale species. Okay. Option C, it is meant to develop India's largest indigenous aircraft carrier. You know what is aircraft carrier, right? And D, it will help India to exploit the resources in the Indian Ocean. So again, all the four are very close to one another, and a person who has no knowledge and who is only relying on guesswork will get it wrong, most probably. So under such circumstances, it's best to skip. Why? Because let's say, for example, let us consider option A. Option A is incorrect. Option B, genetically modified whale species. So this is something which I completely made up from my mind. It has nothing to do with whale species or anything like that. But then again, if you are in the examination hall with the kind of stress you will be under and the kind of pressure that you will be under, you can feel deep ocean. So maybe they are referring to some whale. Okay. C, it is meant to develop India's largest indigenous aircraft carrier. No, it has nothing to do with this as well. D, yes, it will help India to exploit the resources in the Indian Ocean. That is the correct answer. So for question number 3, D is the right answer. And let me just tell you a little bit regarding this Deep Ocean Mission. It comes under the Ministry of Earth Sciences. What is the major objective? Major objective is just like ISRO has been exploring space for a long period of time. Indian government decided that India should also explore the surrounding oceans and seas, because they hold a lot of things which are economically very valuable and India can benefit from them. So that was the major objective. We get to see that there is something called as PMN. PMN stands for polymetallic nodules, and as the name suggests, polymetallic means they are made up of different types of metals. Nodules basically refers to objects which are circular in shape. For example, potato shape will be there. Okay, so such kind of potato or pebble like objects will be found scattered on the ocean floor, and they are made up of different type of metals. These are called as PMN. They are present in almost all oceans, but particularly we get to see that the central Indian Ocean is particularly rich in such kind of PMN deposits. So what has happened is Indian government, they have got permission from ISA. ISA stands for International Seabed Authority. So it is a body which has been created under UNCLOS. So what is UNCLOS? UNCLOS stands for United Nations Convention on Laws of the Sea. So UNCLOS, it is an international convention or an international treaty, you can say. And under this treaty, we have a body called as ISA or International Seabed Authority. So this body, it gives permissions for deep sea mining, and India has got permission from ISA to mine 75,000 square kilometer area in the central Indian Ocean basin, which is very rich in this polymetallic nodules. Okay? So the thing is, if you want to extract these nodules which lie at the bottom of the ocean, and you have to develop vehicles, or you have to develop some kind of a, again, vessel by which you'll be able to go deep down and get the polymetallic nodules. So this particular mission is to develop such kind of submersible vehicle which can go deep into the ocean and take out the polymetallic nodules. Plus we will also get to see there's a second aim also, to build a desalination plant. So let us see what is it all about. So this deep ocean mission plan, it will enable India to develop capabilities to exploit resources in the central Indian Ocean basin. That is the major objective. India, it has got permission to mine 75,000 square kilometers in the central Indian Ocean basin. Who has given the permission? International Seabed Authority. So please just read up a little bit regarding this particular body called as International Seabed Authority, and also read up a little bit regarding UNCLOS. UNCLOS stands for United Nations Convention on Laws of the Sea. Okay? Read up a little bit on UNCLOS as well. So they have got the permission to explore polymetallic nodules from the central Indian Ocean basin. So it will have metals like iron, manganese, nickel, cobalt. These kind of metals are present in the polymetallic nodules. So these kind of metals can be extracted from this PMN. And it has been seen that if only 10% of the PMN can be recovered, okay, that will meet the energy requirements of India for the next 100 years. That is the kind of potential the central Indian Ocean basin that holds, right? And that is why this particular mission becomes very, very important for India's energy security, also for financial, from the economic aspect as well. It has been estimated that 380 million metric tons of polymetallic nodules, they are available at the bottom of the sea in the central Indian Ocean. Achha, apart from that, two key projects of the deep ocean mission are: number one, a desalination plant. What is desalination? Means saline water will be converted into potable or fresh water. That is what is meant by a desalination plant. That is a particular area where the saline water, it will be converted into fresh water. And this desalination plant, it will be powered by tidal energy plus a submersible vehicle. Submersible means a vehicle which can go deep into the sea at the bottom, and which is capable of exploring depths of over 6,000 meters. The focus will be on deep sea mining, developing ocean climate change advisory services, underwater vehicles, to develop underwater vehicles, plus underwater robotics and related technology. So basically the main objective is to develop these things. Okay? So again, deep ocean mission is an important topic for this year's prelims. So please go through it in details. Moving on to question number 4. Question number 4 is with regards to Mutual Legal Assistance Treaty. What is this? What is this all about? So the question is asking, okay, which ministry is the nodal authority in India with respect to criminal matters under mutual legal assistance treaties? Mutual legal assistance treaties. So from the name you can understand that there is involvement between either India and other countries, or there is involvement between different states of India, and some amount of legal assistance will be exchanged between them, or there will be some amount of legal there will be some amount of cooperation on the legal aspect. So the question is, which ministry is the nodal authority in India when it comes to criminal matters under this treaty, that is Mutual Legal Assistance Treaty? So many a times in the newspaper you will get to see that India has signed this kind of treaty with various countries. For example, there are 42 countries with which, or more than 42 countries are there with which India has signed these treaties, mutual legal assistance treaties. For example, Brazil is one among them, US is there. Okay? Now the question is, which ministry is concerned with the criminal cases? So A, Ministry of Home Affairs, B is the Ministry of Finance, C the Ministry of Law and Justice, and D Ministry of External Affairs. So you see again the options have been given in such a manner that a person who has not gone through this particular treaty, or who is not aware of this treaty, will definitely get confused, and if he or she tries to do guesswork, there are a lot of chance of getting it incorrect or getting it wrong. So Just for your information, okay, when it comes to criminal matters, it should be A, Ministry of Home Affairs. On the other hand, if it is talking about, let's say, civil cases, so in that case, it will be under the Ministry of Law and Justice, which is the nodal authority in case of India. So your answer for this particular question should be option A. Let's see. Yeah. Option A is the correct answer, and we get to see a mutual legal assistance treaty. It is an agreement between two or more countries for the purpose of gathering and exchanging information in an effort to enforce public laws or criminal laws. Okay. The Ministry of Home Affairs is the nodal ministry and the central authority when it comes to criminal law matters. When it comes to civil and commercial law, then it is the law ministry which is the central authority under the Mutual Legal Assistance Treaty. This is question number 4. So please go through it. Now coming to question number 5, the last question for the day. This question is with regards to high nitrogen steel, and you have been given 4 statements with regards to high nitrogen steel, and you have to select the correct option. First statement, it is both stainless as well as a non-magnetic type of steel. High nitrogen steel, it is both stainless as well as non-magnetic type of steel. Second statement, it can tolerate small arms fire, and hence this type of steel, they are ideal for making armors. Armors are for protection against small arm fire. When I say small arm fire, that means, let's say for example, from revolvers or pistols, such kind of small arms, they are called as small arms. So if somebody fires from such kind of weapons, then if you make an armor using this kind of steel, it will be able to protect the person. That is the second statement. The third statement is it can be used for civilian applications also. And the fourth statement is it is very expensive and hence cannot be used in the defense sector. These are the 4 statements given. So let us try to understand. And these are the options which have been given. Let's say for example A, all of the above are correct so far as high nitrogen steels are concerned. B is saying 1, 2 and 3. 1, 2 and 3. C, 2, 3 and 4. 2, 3 and 4. Fourth, that is D, 2 and 4. 2 small arm fire and 4. See, again the statements, again if you're not aware, you cannot go for this. It is very difficult because these are very specific type of topics where you either know or you don't know. It is difficult to do educated guesswork over here. So what happens over here? Let us understand. Okay, it is both stainless as well as non-magnetic type of steel. Yes, that is correct. Second statement, it can tolerate small arms fire and hence they are ideal for making armors. Yes, the second statement is also correct. It can be used for civilian applications. Now, if you are not aware, then you will mark this as wrong. So actually, it can be used for civilian applications. But this fourth statement, it is very expensive and hence cannot be used in the defense sector. That is incorrect. In fact, it is quite cheap and hence it can be used not just in the defense sector but also in the civilian sector. And we get to see that a particular private company. So you see answer should be B. And when we talk about B, it is 1, 2 and 3. So as I told you, first statement, second statement and third statement, all these 3 statements are correct. The fourth statement is incorrect. So if we look at high nitrogen steel, it is low cost and hence can be used for defense, civilian and also even for exports as well. And why this fourth statement is also correct is because we get to see Jindal Stainless Limited, which makes stainless steel. It has entered into an agreement with DRDO, okay, under which DRDO will be transferring technology so that the technology can be used to manufacture high nitrogen steel for the defense sector to the company. So basically, to make use of this type of steel in the defense sector, the technology will be transferred by DRDO to Jindal Stainless Limited. Okay, so these were the 5 topics about which you should be aware of. Please go home and read about it in more details. So this is it for today, and we'll come back with the next set of topics in our next lecture. So till then, stay safe, study hard, and thank you so much.